Hey everybody, welcome back to One Seed, One World. Today I want to talk a little bit about amaranth. That's what this beautiful plant is right here. There's over 70 different species of amaranth, and some of them are cultivated for various different things, whether it's ornamental, for a grain, or for its leaves to eat. It's also related to, or sometimes is even referred to as pigweed. Pigweed is more of a wild variety that's not as pretty as the cultivated varieties, and also not as nutritious. But you know, it's been around for a long time. It kind of started in South and Central America. This was a staple of the Aztec civilization. They used it, you know, as a grain, and they also used it in a lot of their religious ceremonies, specifically for their human sacrifice type of religious ceremonies. And because of that, when the Spanish came in and kind of, you know, took over the Aztecs, they banned them growing amaranth because of how it was used in the human sacrifice rituals. Now, often when you hear about amaranth, you know, they talk about it being a gluten-free grain. Now, it is gluten-free, but it's also not really a grain. It's technically a seed. When people eat out of this part, you're eating the seeds. Although, I mean, the whole plant is edible. If this is picked young, you can use the leaves like in salads and whatnot and eat it raw. If you wait to harvest the leaves until after the plant flowers, then they tend to be a little bit more tough, and you would want to maybe cook them like spinach. And then you can also harvest the seeds out of here and use it as grain. They make cereals out of it. They kind of roast it and pop it. You can kind of eat it like quinoa. It's very similar in nutritional value to quinoa, except for it's much higher in lysine than quinoa is. So speaking of lysine, most people get their lysine, which is an amino acid, from eating meat. But amaranth contains high amounts of lysine, which is something that other grains don't really contain a whole lot of, like corn doesn't even have any. It's also very high in calcium, magnesium, and iron. It's kind of a superfood, really. I mean, it also contains protein, which, you know, you don't get that in a lot of things, and not in great amounts when it comes to the plant world. But protein, carotene, like I said, the amino acid lysine, potassium, zinc. In a lot of ways, the leaves of amaranth they're similar to like beets or spinach, except for they contain way more nutrients than any of those. For example, the leaves contain 3 times more calcium and 3 times more niacin than spinach leaves do. Pretty amazing stuff, really. Over here at the corner of the greenhouse, I have celosia growing. The reason why I bring this up is because I think that, one, the amaranth looks a lot like this giant celosia. The reason why is that they're in the same species. Flowers that you might grow in your garden or other areas of your yard, like celosia, coxcomb, bachelor buttons, and love lies bleeding, all of those flowers are in the same species as amaranth and have a lot of the same properties to them. So if you're wanting to harvest amaranth seeds to use as a grain, you'll want to wait until this flower head starts to dry and kind of almost looks like it's dying back. It'll start to turn brown. Once this seed head or this flower or whatever you want to call it, once it turns brown, you can snip it off and then hang the seeds up, or hang that whole head upside down into a paper bag and kind of shake them in there, let them fall out, and then you just have to separate the chaff from the actual seeds, and then you can use the seeds for any of the cooking that you want to do with them. So these have a little ways to go before I can harvest them. Also, I did a small amount this year. This is my 3rd year growing amaranth, but the other 2 years that I planted them, they were in mostly shady areas, so they only got about this tall and didn't really do a whole lot. So I moved a few over here and tried it in this area that gets full sun all the time, and now I've got these great big plants. This one here is over 8 feet tall, but there's not really enough here for me to do a whole lot with, other than I could probably save the seeds for planting next year, but for cooking, I don't think I'll probably get enough. I also planted, and I'll show you here in a second, a golden variety of these, and only, it looks like one of those came up. But there's different types that you can get. There's like red, maroon, and golden, and you can kind of mix them up, and they all have the same health benefits for using them. They make beautiful borders. I will say that the one thing that I've found that they run into is that Japanese beetles love the leaves, and so all of my leaves are kind of half eaten away here. But really, if you want to harvest the leaves, are better when they're younger anyway. And I like to grow them for the flower aspect of them and to get the seeds more so than the green. So that's a little bit about amaranth. I hope you found that information helpful. And if you've grown amaranth in the past, put a comment below and let me know, what you've used it for and how you cook it, maybe how it grew for you and what success, or maybe what troubles or failures you ran into when growing it. I'm going to plant more next year so that I can get more benefits and also just have more color growing throughout my garden areas. They're beautiful, beautiful plant. Hey, thanks for hanging out with me again today. I hope whatever's going on in your neck of the woods, that you're having a great 2022 garden season and that you are getting lots of produce and learning new things this year and maybe discovering some new plants. So I hope everything is going well for you, and we will see you again soon. Have a great day. Namaste.